Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. LL3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from beautiful Bumpy Mango, South Florida, and today's date, Friday, October 12th, 2018. So let us begin. Oh, thanks for tuning in again, my friends. Just did a little homework on my emails, and to see what else I could have in mind. I know yesterday, I hear some of the people, one of the guys talked about it was great that I'm glad they took Alex Jones off the Facebook purge with the policies and all that, and that's, like I tell everyone and him, very dangerous to say, because if it could happen to him, and if you're not gonna do anything, you'd be creating a presence to haunt you. Thomas Paine made an example, address a quote about that on protecting people's liberties or freedoms. That includes our enemies, for plain and simple, and that's all in good faith, because remember, most of our enemies we have are it's all petty issues. When it comes to government, technocracy, that puts a burden on all of us, whether if we like certain people or not. So, speaking of that, actually, before I'm going to proceed here, I was watching some of the video clips from Hurricane Track, and another person was a storm chaser, and that actually went through the eye wall of Hurricane Matthew. And I'll tell you one thing. Wow. Like I said, Mother Nature is furious. And even with the eye itself, it was real quiet. You could hear that wind coming from a distance. And so that's why we don't play with Mother Nature by any means. Plus, we don't go on a panic rampage, have anxiety attacks, because it will affect your team. And even always recommend, folks, safety first. There are cases when people want to get their vehicles because they assume the hurricane is almost done. Yeah, well, happened with me. Actually, someone else's ride, and a tree was right there. It was so dark, even you couldn't see it to the lights. This is why you can wait. That's from Irma from last year. You can wait. After a storm is completely passed and it's daybreak, then you can go to those other areas to pick up your goods, see if it's survived or not. It's tired of, sometimes it really baffles the mind. That's why I want to tell people, never assume, because it can make an ass out of you and me. Have you ever done it in front of a judge? I think so, Your Honor, I assume. They're not going to like that. So, do me a favor. Don't pull that. Don't make it a habit, because it can hurt you and your loved ones when least expect it. Okay, so speaking of purging, because I got to talk about Dan Dix from Press for Truth, got his Facebook page purged, and they call it sensationalism. So Facebook knows best. All hail to technocracy, the technocratic society they want us to abide by. Belly up and go, Big Brother, you are our Lord and Savior. So, this one came out from organic prepper, Daisy Luther. I recommend go there, subscribe to her website. Got great articles in here, and I always like to share this to my fellow listeners around the world. It says here, why the alternative media purge should terrify everyone. And as it reads here, yesterday the alternative media purge was boldly advanced in a coordinated effort to silence people who dissent from establishment views. It is just one more step towards a monopoly of information by those who hate freedom. At this rate, they'll soon have unquestioned access to the minds of more than 2 billion people. This should terrify everyone who wants to be free to question the status quo and to seek range of information. Hundreds of alternative media sites administrators log on to Facebook to discover that their accounts have been removed. Soon after, many of these sites and their riders found that their Twitter accounts had also been suspended. Here's a couple popular pages like the Anti-Media, Free Thought Project, Press for Truth, Police the Police. And you got, some of these people, like Anti-Media has 2.1 million fans, Free Thought Project, 3.1 million fans, Press for Truth, 350,000 fans. And I subscribe to him on YouTube, and he follows me on Twitter. So, yeah, we're like comrades of the information war. And it says here, Police the Police, 1.9 million fans, Cop Block, 1.7 million fans, and Punk Rock Libertarians, 125,000 fans, are just a few of the ones were unpublished. Why are these alternative media accounts removed? The reason given doesn't really add up. Facebook told the LA Times that these pages had violated the company's spam policy. Today we're removing 559 pages and 251 accounts that have consistently broken our rules against spam and coordinated inauthentic behavior. The company said in a blog post, people will only share on Facebook if they feel safe and trust the connections they make here. What? Right now, Facebook's giving you a big penile microphone. Actually, they're actually talking to it and see if you can buy it. But this is actually what their spam policy says. Here's the policy. We work hard to limit the spread of commercial spam to prevent false advertising, fraud, and security breaches, of all of which detract from people's ability to share and connect. We do not allow people to use, mislead, or inaccurate information to collect like followers or shares. Oh my goodness. Do not artificially increase distribution for financial gain, create or use fake accounts or compromise other people's accounts to impersonate or pretend to be a business, organization, public figure, or private individual. Attempts to create connections, create content, or message people. Restrict access to content by requiring people to like, share, or recommend before viewing. Encourage likes, shares, click under false pretense. Maliciously use login credentials or personal unidentifiable information by attempting to gather or share login credentials or personally unidentifiable information, using another person's login credentials or personally unidentifiable information. Promise non-existent Facebook features. And there's the sources in here. Yes, someone's trying to rev up their vehicle to see, look at my sexy hot rod, right? Precisely. Yeah, I gotta shut my phone off so when people call me, they can wait. The Washington Post originally said that these pages were purged for pushing political messages for profit, as you can see by their URL, and you can read it. You can read it for yourselves. But of course, since they too push political messages for profit, why Trump, as all do all other corporate media outlets out there, they changed their headline to Facebook purge over 800,000 U.S. accounts and pages for pushing political spam. The fact that many of these accounts were also suspended by Twitter shortly thereafter should tell you that this is a coordinated effort to silence large swaths of the population. Of course, the best coverage of this is from Russia. Sputnik News contacted many of the alternative journalists who were purged to get their take on what happened. You may recall that basically every blogger outside the establishment media was accused of being secretly Russian during the 2016 election by the Washington Post. So perhaps actual Russians have a vested interest in the truth coming out of this topic. If it was Israel, they'll give them a ticker tape parade called the greatest patriot in America, right? Look at a lot of doublespeak. My friend John Vise is an amazing person who contributes to the Free Thought Project. He said, this signifies a consolidation of the media. Cable news media control the narrative for the most of modern history, but the internet has lowered that barrier to entry and allowed the average person to become the media themselves. This obviously took market share and influence away from the traditional media, and it has allowed for a most diverse public conversation. Now it seems the platforms that have monopolized the industry are favoring mainstream sources and silencing alternative voices. So now, instead of allowing people to have a voice, these platforms are creating an atmosphere where only powerful media organizations are welcome just as we had on cable news. Exactly. Her conformed news, her conformed information, propaganda 101. Think that we were just providing an activist spin on the news, but they don't see the family struggling to have their voice heard. For example, when someone is shot by police, mainstream media sources often just republish the press release from the police department without presenting the victim's side of the story. We give the victims and their families a voice, which is essential to keep power in check. This also goes for bigger issues like foreign policy as well. Multiple full-scale invasions of Syria have been prevented because of information that the alternative media made viral. Yeah, so what's going on with the whole Syria thing? They want us to go be a patriot and say, God bless the military-industrial complex. Imperialism is the only way. But if you kneel down, like Colin Kaepernick, which I still says not controversial enough, you will be called a traitor. But when they do it, it's exceptional. I will proceed here. Nicholas Bernard of the anti-media is another alternative journalist I consider a friend and support wholeheartedly. He's worked tirelessly to be a voice of truth in a world of lies. He told Sputnik, "Our approach generally is to cover stories and angles that corporate media underreport or misreport, and to amplify activist and anti-war voices and stories. All of our content is professionally fact-checked and edited." I got into this line of work because I felt there was a need for media that challenged mainstream assumptions and biases in politics. I wanted to shed light on corruption and wrongdoing against oppressed people and cover the harsh truth about American foreign policy. Over the last 28 days, we reached 7,088,000 people on Facebook. The timing of this purge is rather dubious in my view, coming shortly before the midterm elections. This could be an attempt by Facebook itself to affect the outcome of the coming elections. The Twitter suspension caught me by surprise. I can only speculate that these suspensions were a coordinated effort to stifle our message ahead of the coming elections. Remember, this is coordinated across multiple platforms. Remember when this happened to Alex Jones? Back in September, the assault was led by YouTube, Google, and Facebook against Alex Jones of InfoWars fame. All of his accounts were shut down in quick succession, followed by his credit card processing companies and his newsletter service providers. I wrote, at the time, Alex just the beginning of the purge is going to get much worse. Meanwhile, other dissenting voices were being silenced on social media with limited reach and shadow banning. InfoWars is a massive profit machine. But what happens when similar attacks are launched on small alternative media outlets? It hits us right in the wallet. And if they're hit hard enough, they'll be seized to be able to function. Jones has a lot of money, so may not be the end of him. But for most website owners, this would be an absolute end in our ability to do business and to be able to bring the information we bring. We have to run our websites as businesses. It's far more expensive than most people realize to run a site. I know that at my own operating costs every month are more than $2,000. A site as big as Jones's would be many times that amount. When all your avenues of monetizations are cut off, it will be hard for a site, and the dissent and information they share cease to exist. This is not just about Facebook or Twitter. It's our ability to find dissenting information, period. Google is in on it too. A leaked document from Google supported the idea of censorship. Another Google document has found its way into the public domain, this time through Breitbart. The news publications report that 85-page briefing entitled Google Censor advises tech companies to police tone instead of content, and to take no sides when censoring users. Google might continue to shift with the times, changing its stance on how much or how little it censors due to public, governmental, or commercial pressures. If it does, acknowledgement of what this shift in position means for users and for Google is essential. Shifting blindly or silently in one direction or another rightly incite users' fury. The Google internal research even quotes outside experts like George Soros who express justification of censorship in non-U.S. markets, knowing that Google should police tone instead of content and censor everyone equally, as Breitbart put it. There are 2 trillion Google searches per day. This could be an idea of the power of something like Google. Combine it with billions of Facebook and Twitter users, and you can easily see the influence wielded here. This is where free thought goes to die. Ron Paul reminds us that truth is treason. Ron Paul, a former senator and libertarian voice of reason, said when Jones was purged. Actually, he was a former congressman, House of Representative. You get accused of treasonous activities and treasonous speech because in an empire of lies, the truth is treason. Paul told the Russia-based news outlet challenging the status quo is what they can't stand and it unnerves them. So they have to silence people. Some of us tell the truth about our government. They call us treasonous and say we're speaking out of line, and they like to punish us. And I think that's part of what's happening with social media. Paul told RT, adding that he hopes any government or any war voices can eliminate the dependency on the current social media platforms. I'm just hoping that technology can stay ahead of it all and that we can have real alternatives to the dependency on Twitter and other companies have been working hard in glove with the government, Paul added. Here's a video from last month with Dr. Paul's thoughts about the social media purge, and it reminds us that Facebook is a private entity, so they do have the right to remove pages they wish. The danger in the area in which trends on the First Amendment is a direct ties to the government. It's interesting about that because even Congressman Ted Deutsch, John-infested pig that he is, does support censoring Alex Jones on Facebook. And that's the kind of person you want representing your district? That's in Broward County? You want that jackass, Benedict Arnold, in heat? Benedict Arnold's a lot more patriotic than that individual. Okay? I can tell you that. What, he's a lawyer, thinks he's smarter than everybody else? Give him the big middle finger when you see him. Even vote his ass out, as far as I'm concerned. But we'll continue on here. This affects everyone. If you're reading this and shrug because you personally don't have a Twitter or Facebook account, you're missing the bigger point. Consider the fact that the population of Facebook is bigger than the population of U.S., China, and Brazil combined. That's how many people will now only receive one side of the story on things like war, politics, guns, and current events. People will believe what they're told because there's no alternative information presented. There are no questions asked. It's literally the textbook definition of brainwashing. Is what brainwashing means. 1, a forcible indoctrination or induce someone to give up basic political, social, or religious beliefs and attitudes and to accept contrasting regimented ideas. Can we say the Patriot Act post 9/11? Absolutely. 2, persuasion by propaganda or salesmanship. Here's an article in Psychology Today that discusses how Facebook is, in fact, brainwashing people for profit. Social media is a massive source of information and influence today. If the information is rigged by entities that support socialism, gun control, and the end of privacy, we're doomed. 2.2 million active users will be bombarded with these messages without any real option for the other side of the story. So regardless of whether you personally participate, this will color popular sentiment to a massive degree. It will grow the cognitive dissonance that assures people of things like government is your friend and that you don't need to protect yourself. The police will take care of you. All it is, my friend, what they're saying is they're going to give you a wet dream presentation. People who hate freedom will get unfettered access to the minds of 2 billion people. That should scare the crap out of you. What can you do about alternative media purge? It's possible but unlikely that social pressure on Facebook and Twitter will push the outlets into restoring the accounts of these alternative media networks. But even if they are restored, I suspect their reach will dwindle even further. Here are a few things you can do. Subscribe to the newsletters on websites you enjoy. Don't count on seeing their work on social media. You can subscribe to my newsletter here, which I'm one of them. Support them financially if you can. Many sites have Patreon accounts or donate buttons. Bookmark them and visit regularly. If they have ads, your visits will help them make money they need to stay afloat. Share their articles on your own social media accounts if they can't get their work out there. We can help. Join alternative media social media outlets like Gab and MeWe, which I have both of them. I do have both of them. I gotta learn more about MeWe, but there's others like Minds.com, RealLiberty.org, Freedoms Network. There's I would say, what's another one here? World Truth MX. That's another fantastic site too. And they're small, but they are like-minded individuals, and we can build them up as well. All right. The truth is getting harder to find. We're going to have to dig for it. We're watching the biggest campaign against freedom of speech and thought that has ever occurred in part of our world, part of the world. The alternative media purge is just the beginning, and we should all be very concerned. Remember, it's called a domino effect. Screw one, screw all, and soon they want to probably fight amongst each other. This is how these scumbags think. They'll stab their own comrade in the back for personal gain, lust, power, control. Government in Latin, once again, means control of the mind. And you got these technocratic fools out there are bending over with the state, like that makes Benito Mussolini's climaxing in his grave. Okay? Corporatism at its finest. And that's why I'm real critical when someone tells me, oh, I'm glad Alex Jones is off of Facebook. They should be wearing the I love Benito Mussolini button. If they don't like that, then learn to keep your mouth shut. Look at the bigger picture. And some of my coworkers said that to me. I called them out on it. What are you going to do? Fight me? Prove me wrong? You can't, because you know I'm right. That's what the freedom movement's about. This is what the information war is about. You know why? They are desperate. Because they know they're getting their butts whipped. It's not a whole majority, but at least a great amount are taking the initiative on examining these sites and thinking for themselves. And don't get me wrong, I'm real critical of Alex Jones on some of his good amount of his actions. Okay? I remember the time he burned bridges with Jack Blood. I seen that video, the Second Amendment rally in Austin, Texas. Jack Blood was speaking about the right to keep bears and many others, and Alex Jones came in with this little entourage with this megaphone blasting to everybody. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And you know what, Mr. Jones, with all due respect, don't give me defense mechanized rhetoric. Because you're going to make yourself a show, just admit it. Or be an ass clown. But the truth of the matter is, I'm not going to say your site's all bad either. All right? You do have honorable guests. You have good link of information. I admire that. But one thing I know for sure, friends. Always observe responsibly. Don't rely on the mainstream social media sites to get everything. There's multiple avenues to get the information, but those clowns are hurting everybody. And I'll guarantee you one thing: if they decide to get money from the government, then we know where they stand. Correct? Absolutely. All right, we're gonna do one more here. That's a nice little. You can say it coincides with this article. It came out a couple of days ago. This is by Brandon Smith off of BobLivingstonLetter.com. How globalists plan to use technology and poverty to enslave the masses. Tyranny is often seen as sudden and inexplicable development in a society, the product of a singular despot that rockets to power for a limited window of time due to public fear or stupidity. This is one of the great lies of the modern era. We can use September 11th, 2001 as a prime example. The truth is that for the latest of the past century, almost every historical despised tyrant was merely a puppet of a larger managerial cabal, and the construction of each totalitarian state was accomplished slowly and quietly over the course of decades by some of those financial elites. From the Bolsheviks to Hitler, to the Third Reich, to Mao Zedong, to most tin pot dictators across the Middle East and Africa, there is always been an organized group of money men and think tanks fueling the careers of the worst politicians and military juntas of the epoch. The rise of the tyrannical system takes extensive time, planning, and staging. Human beings do not simply jump right into the arms of a despotic nightmare regime impulsively at moment's notice. We have been told by popular media that this is how it works, that during hard economic and social conditions, men with charismatic personalities and evil intentions suddenly rise to the surface and take power by promising a better world in exchange for public fealty. But where did those economic and social crises come from to begin with? Were they natural consequences of the era, or were they deliberately engineered? The reality is that people must be psychologically conditioned to trade freedom for the illusion of safety. Sometimes this takes generations. Every attempt at a totalitarian framework inevitably elicits a rebellion. Therefore, the most successful tyrant will be the ones that the public demands. They have to think this is their idea, otherwise they will eventually fight it. Globalist financiers and power addicts need something more than mere military might or bureaucratic force to obtain their idea slave society. They need fourth-generation warfare tactics. They need con the masses into loving their own servitude. There are two tools that make this outcome possible. This is the first controlled economic decline, and second is the integration of a technological gulag into every aspect of public life. A la the Federal Reserve, central banking, a very good example of controlled economic decline. Economic weapons of mass distraction. It is no coincidence that dictatorial governments gain prominence as a global economy suffers. It is extremely difficult for people to remain vigilant to tyranny when they are completely distracted by their own survival. This is why my focus as an analyst has always been primarily on economics and solutions to fiscal disaster. If the public can be prepped to develop their own alternative economic system before a crisis occurs, they will be less distracted by the chaos and more apt to notice when the globalists offer tyranny as a fix-all. Without alternative markets at a local level, there is no redundancy and no protection from a crash. With most people dependent on an existing system for their livelihoods, the economy becomes a very powerful weapon for the globalists. Holding the economy hostage creates numerous advantages. Through deflationary pressure, wages can be kept low while the higher paying jobs disappear. Manufacturing can be phased out or outsourced overseas, as in the U.S. small business ownership becomes difficult as taxes generally rise as financial conditions decline. Can we say government are parasite of society, right? Through inflationary and stagflationary pressures, low wages and inadequate job market are combined with exploding prices. This makes survival for many people untenable without government aid. Can we say fiat money? In this environment, working public becomes reliant on the service sector, which provides no useful skill sets. Soon, you have generations of people with no production abilities whatsoever. They have become drones working in meaningless office and retail jobs, squandering away their days, knowing that they are accomplishing nothing beyond a meager paycheck. The lack of a greater purpose or mission in life and the nagging realization that the average person has no productive capacity creates a palpable atmosphere of desperation. They do not own their own work. They have nothing much to show for their labor. Nothing to point at and say, I built that. The public gets to the point that they may even welcome an economic collapse simply to escape the drudgery. This is where movements to support totalitarianism come from. The subsets of citizens that are fed up with fighting against the economy, have no sense of independence. These people do not know how to solve their own problems. They are always looking for someone else to do it for them. The globalists are happy to suggest their own predetermined solutions to the public once the financial structure hits a point. of maximum pain. However, the economy is repaired in exchange for the submission of the citizenry. People might still decide one day that the trade was unfair. Thus, a deterrent is needed to keep them in line. So it's like truth, justice, and the goody two-shoes way. And when they try to condition people, saying that the reason why they attacked us on September 11th because of our freedoms, and people still buy it today. I talk about the Twilight Zone, right? I will continue on. The technological fish tank. It is important to understand that there is no major country in the Western and Eastern world that has not built a digital control grid, and this helps to support my position that Eastern nations are just as subservient to globalist demands as Western nations. All the geopolitical drama surrounding like the trade war, the Syrian war, or various elections, etc., none of this matter when determining if the strings of a particular government are being pulled by the globalist cabal. All you have to do is look how quickly they are implementing oppressive systems that serve global interests. For example, India's government has been hitting in the news feed lately as the Supreme Court recently ruled that the controversial Aadhaar biometric program is legal. In a nation around 1.3 billion people, around 1 billion have already been biometrically profiled in the national database. This data can include fingerprints, iris scans, and face scans. Can we put our hands in the heart and go, God bless Big Brother, he'll protect me for my own good? Precisely. I have heard it argued that India is rather an odd place to experiment with such a database, considering 60% of the population is under the poverty line and most people barely have basic amenities. But I will point out this is why it is the perfect place for the globalists to start cataloging the world population on a larger scale. So the more you have that peasantry mindset, the more opportunity you give them. Again, financial desperation and a lack of production skills tend to produce subservience. Hundreds of millions of poverty-stricken people in India sprawling urban sewers are voluntarily giving up their biometric data in exchange for government aid programs. For people not anchored down by the poor economy, India has instituted other measures, including requiring anyone accessing government services of opening up a bank account for sign up for a mobile service, also give up their biometrics to the government. In other nations not yet impoverished at India's level, more subversive measures have been instituted for surveillance for the population. Data is simply taken rather than traded. In Russia, Vladimir Putin has put the Yarovaya laws he signed into 2016 into effect. All digital data from police conversations to emails is now recorded and stored by telecoms for government access for a minimum of 6 months. This includes Facebook and Twitter posts. The 2014 blogger laws also require any blogger with over 3,000 followers be put on a government file and they cannot remain anonymous. Any business operating a public Wi-Fi network is required by law to identify users by ID, which is also stored for at least 6 months. Russia's FISA-style surveillance grid is vast, yet many people in the liberty movement seem to ignore this reality with misplaced Putin worship. As I have noted in numerous articles, Russia is heavily influenced by international finances. So in other words, Vladimir Putin is nothing more than a bend-over Bob to the New World Order, just like our past presidents as well. And we can say Donald Trump also, with all due respect. Goldman Sachs is one of the biggest investment banks in the country. Their central bank works closely with the IMF and the BIS. The Kremlin has in the past called for a global currency controlled by the IMF. And Putin even admits in his own biography, first person, that he has been friends with the New World Order salesman, Harry Kissinger, since before he became president of Russia. In the latest show, How Globalist Russia Really Is, the Russian foreign minister recently criticized the U.S. in a speech to the UN General Assembly over its attacks to the international order, including undermining the World Trade Organization and global climate change agreements. Putin expressed similar sentiments to the UN about a year ago. It should come as no surprise to anyone that Russia is playing right along with the globalist efforts to identify and track every single living person. It should also come as no surprise that Donald Trump, surrounded by globalists in his own cabinet, is continuing and expanding visa surveillance under his administration. So all you folks out there that worship the floor he walks on, if he burns the Constitution, go, I still love my man. He does no wrong. You're in the twilight zone also. At the beginning of the 2018, Trump signed a bill renewing the National Security Agency's warrantless FISA mass surveillance on the American population. Leading Democrats happily supported the action. Despite all of Trump's rhetoric against FISA recently, it was Trump that made FISA's continuation possible. Trump Nation all the way. He is our hero. Plop. But where all this is going, how does the combination of poverty and digital surveillance translate to tyranny? I believe China's social credit program is the answer. China is the representative of the end game for the globalist idea for civilization, with mass economic struggle leading to dependency on government and welfare programs and employment opportunities. No citizen can afford to be blacklisted. China's social credit system created an environment in which any and every action on the parts of citizens is tracked and then related for acceptance or consequence. This includes how people express attitudes toward the government itself. Obviously, this is the ultimate control mechanism, very similar to the Cheka of Stalinist Russia, but on a massive digital scale. This is why surveillance is evil, regardless of whether someone is breaking the law or not. It gives government the power to dictate behavior by inspiring self-censorship. Individuals do not dare to do anything outside a collective norm for fear that it could be interpreted as socially negative. Punishment might include loss of access to the economy itself, and when most people are living from paycheck to paycheck, this could mean death. This is why, my friend, you have to look at the bigger picture. And I'm tired of people trying to blame capitalism for this. You're just part of the smoke and mirrors entourage. There's people, I tell them this, and they like, oh, but you know what? It's the damn truth. This is what the order wants. So your little parading of who's going to be the next representative or governor as some Lord and Savior is nothing more than a pipe dream. Don't believe the hype. You got to remain vigilant. Start focusing on the local economy. Don't be part of this corporate world. We all been swindled one or the other, including myself. But it doesn't mean I'm just going to give up or complain, want a handout. Okay, I'm an urban camper. I know how to live. People out there have more money than you and I. They're complaining about every little thing. Pettiness. So that's why I don't support synthetic movements. I give you a whole list of them. Because I've been in some of these meetings, and I find a lot of it is unmeritable. Okay, it doesn't matter if you support Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, they're all on the same boat. The Orwellian echo chamber. Don't fall for it. It will bite you in the rear end when least expect it. Support true freedom. Start with yourselves. Then learn skills that you thought you couldn't do. We all have our strengths and flaws, but have people that are good at other things more than you, and vice versa. Then you can build a greater foundation, one step at a time. All right, my friends, thank you for listening. Plus, feel free to share and download this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, and if something's interesting that I want to check out, whatever you do, please address your correspondence with decorum. I will put all my social media and sites and email contacts on my Spreaker page. And that is it. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.